would you have the legislative authority to report to the House?
I would.
So you have not reported any misconduct to the House
With
or
respect
to the
to
Attorney General?
CBSA, we're not finalized. We haven't finalized our active cases of it.
This Guy's Garage. Like and subscribe.
You can understand that I was dismayed by the release of the Auditor General's report detailing that the Canada Border Services Agency's documentation, financial records, and controls were so poor that she was unable to determine the precise costs of the ArriveCAN application. I reject any suggestion that in retrospect, a failure of this nature was justifiable or even understandable, given the circumstances that arose from the pandemic. I also take issue with the notion that this type of outcome could not have been foreseen.
Ms. Maynard, it seems that from your opening comments that you were a bit of a Cassandra here. You prophesied correctly that there would be significant problems around information, that the pandemic would not be an excuse. The government was warned and they didn't listen. I think that's an important testimony, not only what happened with the ArriveCAN scandal, but also that people were warned, flags were raised in advance, and there was no appropriate caution shown. What are the responsibilities of ministers and of PCO, the Prime Minister's Department, when it comes to information being maintained and information being available?
Under the Act of the Access to Information Act, it's the Secretariat, Treasury Board Secretariat who's responsible to administer the Act. They are the department that are responsible to send notification or policies or explanation of how to apply the Act and making sure the administration is done properly. But within each department, the minister is responsible for the administration of its own responses to the Access to Information Act and making sure that the operation is working, that they have the sufficient resources, they have sufficient people working at it, and they also responsible to send guidance and directions. If a leader believes in access and believes in transparency, the rest of the department will work towards that. So what we see is some departments, it's working really well. They have great leadership, great guidance. Others, I was worried, and it's what happened during the pandemic. People working from home, people working on their phone, on their cellular, on Teams, and not taking notes, not recording what was happening. So this is again, I think it is a leadership issue.
Okay, so you expect leadership from ministers on that, as well as leadership from the Treasury Board. And to be clear, that includes not only on responding to requests for information, but ensuring that the obligation to maintain records so that they can be requested, that those are part of the obligations as well.
Exactly. Right now, there is no legislative duty to document. There's a policy issued by Treasury Board with respect to documenting records, keeping records, and there's also information management policies. But this has to be coming down from the ministers and the different departments, and TBS is definitely responsible for administering the Act. With that
and clearly that's not happening. Thank you for that. It has been alleged, there have been articles about this, that Mindone deleted email records. Can you confirm, first of all, that deleting email records, as described in this story, would be a violation of the law? And secondly, do you have any response or reflections to these very serious allegations against one of the principal players in the ArriveCAN issue?
I cannot comment on that specific situation, but I can tell you the Act currently have under Section 67.1 the prohibition of destroying, altering, falsifying, and concealing records with the intent of denying a right of access. So during an investigation and we find that documents have been destroyed and I have sufficient evidence to believe that it was intentional in order to not have that information accessible, I can refer the file to the Attorney General for further investigation under the criminal code. But it's not something that I can pursue when we pass the administrative investigation into a criminal investigation. I'm limited.
So just to understand that process that you just described, you can't comment on the specifics around the allegations against Min Doan, but if you had these concerns, you would refer them to the Attorney General, who sits in the Liberal cabinet, Mr. Varani. Could you refer them directly to the RCMP? And if you were making such a referral, would the public know that you had made that referral, or would it be a private referral?
So currently, you're right. The only available, I can only refer to the Attorney General. Unfortunately, I cannot refer directly to the RCMP. It is something that I submitted to the Parliament or to TBS for an amendment, for possible amendments of the Act, that I should be able to refer to the appropriate authorities. But right now it's the Attorney General, and it is not something that it's private. This is something that we have done 6 times in the last 40 years of our existence. So it's not something that happens very often, because you have to believe that it was an intention in order to remove access to the information.
Thank you very much.
I would just comment parenthetically that
time, please.
Oh,
Mr. Baines.
Never mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to our commissioner for joining us today. I know you said that some departments are following the guidelines. They're documenting, and they're following the Act as it's supposed to. Some are good, some are bad. Can your office make that determination whether documents are missing or never existed when it comes to CBSA in this case?
During an investigation, we are definitely looking at whether documents that were supposed to exist have been destroyed or are missing, in terms of if something is not there because it was not created in the first place, it's a little bit more difficult. But sometimes we find email exchange, or there's like somebody will make an allegation that a really big decision was made, but for some reason there is no records of it. And that's something that we can definitely comment on. But the Act currently applies to record that already exist. So if we find, again, that there is evidence that something has been destroyed or altered or, changed, or somebody telling somebody else to do that during an investigation, we can definitely look at Section 67.1 in terms of whether it was intentional or criminal.
Thank you, Chair. And good afternoon, Madame Maynard. Thank you for your attendance. You spoke about the CBSA, of all the government departments, having the most active complaints. Can you drill down a little bit more with respect to that analysis and that pronouncement, and specifically how many investigations is your office currently undertaking right now with respect to the ArriveCAN issue?
With respect to the ArriveCAN issues, it's very difficult because sometimes it's not, limited to what happened or the contract. But I think that we have about around 15 to 20 cases that maybe are going to be linked to some of the issues that you're investigating here or dealing with. We have received 654 complaints this year against CBSA, and I still have 536 open complaints with respect to CBSA. Like I said earlier, a lot of them are with respect to immigration files because agents have found that they can ask CBSA information that they could have also asked RCC.
Time, so excuse me for interrupting, but is that the ArriveCAN investigations your office is working on, is that exclusively with the CBSA or other government departments?
There could be others.
There could be others. It could be PHAC, it could be PSPC.
PSPC.
Okay, or others?
Yep.
Relating to ArriveCAN?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you in your opening statement, you expressed a deep dissatisfaction with the evidence that you have heard from the Auditor General and some of the other pieces of evidence I'm sure your office has been made privy to. The Auditor General opined that she's more concerned as to what her report does not indicate. And the highlight there is just the vast mass of missing information. We now have evidence that we have heard in various committees that there are senior executives at the CBSA who are accused of deliberately deleting upwards to 1,700 emails over a 4-year period. And the person in question just happened to be the vice president of the CBSA and the chief information officer for the government of Canada. And he apparently is the only executive at the CBSA that had issues with his email. Does that concern you from a perspective of the ambit and responsibility that you have?
It's definitely a concern when we hear allegations like this.
I understand you ultimately, if you discover any suspicions or any evidence of criminality, you must report not to the RCMP directly, but rather the Attorney General, in this case, the Liberal Attorney General, who is not independent in the role as Minister of Justice. He is a Liberal Minister of Justice. Do you think, given all the evidence that you may or may not be aware, how the Liberal team led by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau actually blocked the ability of the Auditor General to even start an assessment into the audit with respect to the Arrive scam issue? Do you think, given all the efforts, all the attempts by the Liberal bench to block access to information, would you be in a position to completely bypass the Attorney General and actually report directly to Parliament so Canadians, not necessarily the Liberal government, but Canadians can be aware of your concerns? Would you have the legislative authority to report to the House?
I would, because I have the authority under the Access to Information Act to report on special reports if there's something of importance. But the referral would only be to the Attorney General, but I could definitely publicize and table a special report if I did such a referral.
And are you prepared to do such a referral?
I could, yes.
Thank you very much. Those are my questions, Chair.
We all share your concerns, and I really do appreciate some of your recommendations and your thoughtful manner in which you have identified some of those, how should I say, things that have gone missing, things that have not been done correctly. And it's not just you. We all of you seen the Auditor General has commented on this. The Ombudsman has made recommendations. CBSA and some of the teams have done an internal review because of the same concerns that they see. And of course, your department is where a lot of complaints come. I mean, the existence of the Information Commissioner and the Commission itself is to accommodate many complaints, and that is part of the job. And I appreciate the tremendous amount of pressure that goes into that for you. You've already sort of walked us through the ATIP process with CBSA. We are all, this committee is very concerned with CBSA's activities and some of the shortcomings that have taken place. And we know some of the challenges that you've now identified and addressed. I just want to understand, have you spoken to the Auditor General in regards to your review? And have you spoken to her, given her last report?
No, I haven't.
Have you had a discussion with the Ombudsman in regards to his report and his review?
No, I haven't.
Have you spoken, and I guess you've just mentioned that you wouldn't be able to, but has the RCMP contacted you?
No.
And in all of the activities and the reviews that you've put forward, and you've certainly seen and have commented on the, how should I put this? I'll ask you, have you seen misconduct in the work that you've have you seen civil servants operating illegally? Has there been misconduct by people that are handling these files?
I can't conclude misconduct. I can tell you that in 6 different cases, the commission, the Office of the Commissioner's Information Commissioner, has referred files, information that we found during investigation, under the belief that there was evidence of an intention to commit a crime, and the Attorney General is responsible to continue those investigations. So, as I know, there is no finding or pursuit of these 6 cases.
So you have not reported any misconduct to the House
With
or
respect
to
to
the Attorney General?
CBSA, we're not finalized. We haven't finalized our active cases of it, so we're still investigating.
When do you anticipate finalizing your report on the CBSA?
Well, each file is independent, so it really depends, and we try to do our investigation as quickly as possible. Sometimes it takes 3 months, sometimes it's a year. It really depends on the allegations and the complaints.
So the CBSA is doing a review concurrently, right? They're assessing this very issue, and you have not had discussions with them on this matter?
I cannot discuss how we are doing our investigation and what kind of conversations we are, but I can tell you generally those type of conversations would happen with respect to these files.
Would happen, but it's not happening at this point.
It may. I just can't.
I see. Okay. No. You're right. Now, I know that in this committee we do tend to discuss many things. Many members of the committee are going out of their way to investigate themselves the issues, right? So we understand there's a lot of investigations happening concurrently, and certain individuals are now becoming investigators themselves, and they're going away, talking directly with witnesses, they're talking to various matters and others that are trying to do the investigation, trying to maintain integrity in this investigation, and you have, just by your comment today, maintain integrity. And that's critical in these investigations, so as not to prejudice the outcome and preclude any activity that would then avoid us having a proper resolution. And we need a proper outcome. And I appreciate the work that you're doing in regards to it. And certainly all of us on this committee want to understand the truth. And when we talk about information that's gone missing, then you can't even determine if there was any information in the first place. I guess that's part of your dilemma. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
quick answer, please. Oh, there we go. We have a quick answer.
Commissioner, following up on my last line of questioning to you, I want to confirm, are you in a position and will you conduct a special report to Parliament on ArriveCAN? And if so, can you do that by May the 1st of this year?
I cannot confirm that I will. I can only tell you that if I find something in investigation that is worth coming to a Parliament and tabling a special report, this is an authority that I have under the Act. I can do that.
Okay. And the evidence you've heard so far does not rise to that level?
I haven't been able to review the investigation, that evidence that we have found during our investigation.
Okay, thank you. Over to Mr. Barrett.
Is it difficult to destroy government documents and records?
No.
To delete and erase emails, for instance, would you have to do more than just delete it from your inbox?
I think there's backup and there's tapes in some places. It really depends on the departments, but usually people can delete and do proper cleanup of their inbox every day.
And is that information then stored, in your experience, then stored on servers, even if it's deleted from a public servant's inbox or a government email address?
It depends on the retention policy of each departments.
Would you say it requires the intent of the individual to delete it, or do things get deleted by accident?
It could be deleted by accident. It could be deleted intentionally.
Could you give me an example of how something would be accidentally deleted?
I don't know, like I can, somebody going through their inbox and deleting, like cleaning their inbox.
Sure.
I can't.
Do you know what the retention standards are at CBSA for electronic records?
No, I don't.
Do you know if they have any?
They probably, I think most, actually all departments have to have them.
Are you aware of the allegations that the CTO, the Chief Technology Officer for the Canada Border Services Agency, Mindone, destroyed 1,700 emails related to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's $60 million Arrive scam?
I've heard the news in the media, yes.
And you've said before that that the investigations that you're undertaking are not something that you list on your website, correct?
No.
How many active investigations did you say that you have?
Total,
Yes, ma'am.
we have presently 2,900,
2,900.
yeah,
Okay.
approximately, yeah.
What would it take for a committee, what would it take for a committee in the form of instruction to you to be able to have for us to be able to be assured that an investigation were taking place?
I would need a complaint,
You would need a complaint.
yes.
So a request to conduct an investigation isn't sufficient. A complaint to you is required.
Usually, because the investigation has to be linked to an access request that was made, and if the person is unsatisfied with the response or the timelines, they can complain to my office.
And you have received complaints related to the ArriveCAN application.
I cannot say which one and how and what, but yes, generally we have complaints with respect to CBSA.
You have complaints related to CBSA. Is there obviously not with the 2,900 ongoing investigations that you have, is there any standard amount of time for your the conclusion of your investigations that a service standard that you have in your office?
We try to do, depending if it's a timeline issue, delay complaints, it's within 90 days. If it's a refusal, exemptions, or missing records, that could go up to 6 to 9 months.
So up to 9 months for missing records. But if, for example,
That's the standard, and depending on how.
That's the standard.
That's it.
And then if you saw fit, then you could table with Parliament your findings if you deemed that it was what was the standard in the public interest, or
If it's a matter that I believe the Parliament should be aware of, I have the authority to table special reports. So if it's something that I believe that not just the institution or the complainant should be aware of, I can use a special report to provide that information to Parliament.
Well, I very much appreciate your responses and trust that you having been here today indicates Parliament's keen interest in your work with relation to CBSA and missing documents. Thank you very much.